This is the last, his final ride. He didn't know how much more he had left in the tank.
There's a reason that they call Dustin Rhodes the Natural. Recently, I've been going through my 1992 watch list. That video will come, I don't know when, but it will. And one of the major highlights has been Dustin Rhodes as one of the babyfaces taking on the Dangerous Alliance. It's not often that the son of a prominent professional wrestler takes to the sport with such prodigious skill, but Dustin Rhodes more than lived up to the lofty expectations of his family name. The man understands pro wrestling on a bone-deep level. Not just on a mechanical level, mind you, in which he's always excelled, but also in the more intangible performance aspects. Dustin knows how to get over with a crowd. He can draw their sympathy, rally them behind him, and conduct an audience's emotions with ease. He never really lost his touch for it, from his days in WCW all the way to the present in AEW. It's why even with AEW's stacked roster of world-class athletes in their prime, 53-year-old Dustin Rhodes still has some of the best matches in the company's short history. His AEW Dynamite bout against CM Punk is no exception. In Punk, we have another performer who has a keen proficiency with the fundamental, primal aspects of professional wrestling. One of the most captivating and magnetic personalities in the history of the industry, Punk has always been aware of how to turn that innate connection to the crowd into electric ring work. Both men demonstrate the heights of their powers on the April 20th, 2022 edition of Dynamite. Really, there's no reason in kayfabe to care about this match. You can point me to the Road 2 promos, sure, but most people really just wanted to see this for the sake of seeing it. The magic, of course, comes from how both Dustin and Punk put together the match to make you care. The first choice that goes behind this is that Punk chooses to be the less sympathetic side of things. He's not a heel in this match per se, but he's certainly not the sentimental favorite. People love Punk. I love Punk, sure, but there's no real reason to rally behind him against a veteran underdog coming into the match with almost no chance of winning. And so Punk plays the antagonist, for the most part. That manifests in very simple ways that never require Punk to cross the line and betray where his character is at the moment. For example, the early babyface shine goes to Dustin Rhodes. Instead of letting Punk run through him, Dustin uses a little more quickness than expected to get the upper hand. Later on in the match, it's Punk working the control segment on Dustin, ensuring that for a majority of this, it's the veteran working from underneath and garnering the crowd's sympathy. Those are just the ways the match structure tells us to root for Dustin. Punk also adds a little flavor to it with some nice character touches. There's an obvious one that's obscured by picture-in-picture for TBS viewers, but on the fight stream, it's clear as day when Punk uses the old gold dust taunt to mock Dustin. But it comes across in subtler ways, too. The mere act of putting a Rhodes in a figure 4 is heelish, yes, but just look at Punk's expression here. He looks mean and borderline hateful. It's not hard to throw your lot in with Dustin. All that works because Dustin Rhodes is a top-notch babyface. This match is a textbook example of how an underdog babyface can draw in a crowd even when the result of the match is absolutely not in question. The key to all of that is selling, a babyface's best friend. Much of the match is structured around Punk working over Dustin's leg. It's a particularly opportunistic attack from Punk as well because Dustin tweaks his leg after crashing and burning on an attempted crossbody, again adding to Dustin's sympathetic nature. The match presents Dustin Rhodes with a myriad of opportunities to show off how damaged his leg is. During the commercial break, his comeback is cut off when his leg gives out on an attempted power slam. Later on, in the middle of his big actual comeback, Punk tries to cut him off by kicking out the legs. And then there's the pièce de résistance, Dustin crumbling to the ground from the force of leaping off the turnbuckles after his corner punches. So goddamn good. The kind of nerdy limb selling that makes my heart race. Love it so much. At the same time, Dustin is a disciple of what I've come to know as the Steamboat Rule. If you haven't heard of it, it's a simple principle really. It boils down to the very same ideas behind fighting spirit, which is that even when you're selling and being worked over, you always try to get back into the fight. This is clearest during Punk's control segment when Dustin makes several attempts to fight back, but always gets cut off in spite of his attempts. It signals to the crowd that their sympathies aren't wasted on a loser, that they're getting behind a fighter, working as hard as possible to gain their victory. Where Dustin brings a lot of the heart and soul to this match though, Punk's more cerebral fingerprints are all over this thing. You find it in ways that he sets things up. For example, he misses a corner knee strike attempt hurting his own leg. Selling by bending over and clutching his leg puts him in the perfect position to take Dustin's code red, making this one of the most organic and well-planned versions of that signature Dustin spot since AEW started. Also, this match is laid out pretty much perfectly. When I think about this match's structure, I think about great things like how hard Dustin has to work for his comeback. He gets that big move by kicking Punk over the ropes, but even then, that's not quite enough at first. It takes sending Punk into the turnbuckles and an arm wrench into the apron to really get things going. And speaking of Punk's arm, he's here to deliver on limb selling as well. That story is started early with Dustin's arm drags painting a target on Punk, only for that to become a much more serious injury as the match progresses. By the time the match is in its final stretch, Punk's arm is so battered up that he can't even get a proper grip to execute the GTS. It takes a little more cleverness on Punk's part to finally get that win. The arm work serves to restore Punk's sympathetic nature to the crowd. Yes, he's a bit more of the antagonist here, but by the end, he has his own struggles and obstacles to eventually overcome. Him being able to do so restores him as a hero and gets us back on his side in victory instead of us being bitter at Dustin's defeat. It really is such an impressive match. Charming and thoughtful in ways that TV wrestling should be. It's careful and well executed, and it gets the crowd rocking for what is essentially just another TV win for Punk to rack up before moving on to another younger cowboy. I can't imagine you haven't seen it if you're enough of a wrestling fan to know my channel, but if you're somehow new to this whole thing and you just stumbled on this video, I really can't recommend it enough. It's one of the best matches of the year from two of the best to ever do this. 4.25 stars. A wonderful match. Hey everybody, thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. I just wanted to do something real quick because I loved this match so much and I just wanted to share my thoughts on it with all of you. Of course, I want to send a massive thank you to all of my Ko-fi supporters. Thank you to my one-time supporters in Eric Grosso, Reload Last Save, Ryan, Andos, J-Reb, Nova, Kali, Juan C. Gonzalez, Connor Burnett, Ryan Dawson, AJ Tigner, Braden, Ryan Acosta, El Hijo de Mendoza, Jack Gardner, Alberto Mendoza, Alex Shelley Fan, but again, Mackie Wee, and Greg Lasky. And a huge thank you to all my monthly supporters in James Draper, Captain Jack Heartless, Eddie Roberts, Jacob Dickens, Matt Brummett, Chick Fritz, Spiders in My Bed, Timothy R. Buchner, In Delane, Don O'Matic, Peter Vinnison, Kid Kingpin, Joe Humphreys, Christopher Jackson, Saltine Daltine, Dustin Faulkner, Edgar Molina, Four Pillars of Hell, Sean Emily, Mason Rollison, Carve Cutta, Jacob VR, Andrew Perry, Craig Jones, Merch Table Mafia, Clem DK, Suit Coat Man, Ando Commando, Khan, Shane, Vibe MD, Christoph, and Quentin Besnahard. You guys are absolutely the best. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. You guys are great. Thank you so much for getting here. Thank you all, and have a good one.